You may have noticed that we really love conversations with our customers around here. We encourage you to talk with us because we found that folks who are more engaged build monitoring solutions that are more successful than those that install it once, set it, forget it, and walk away until it breaks.
But we also realize that everyone is different. So we've created different ways to stay engaged that match our style and personality. From discussions on thwack to our monthly lab episodes and SolarWinds Academy classes to one-on-one sessions with our UX team to even monthly missions where you gain valuable insight.
And thwack points, and sometimes socks.
Okay, yes, forget about the socks. But it's the insights that are important. But with all of those options, it can still sometimes be overwhelming, especially if you're just getting started.
Right, and that's where this thwack camp session fits in. For the next little bit, we're going to discuss what you need to know and where you need to start if you're new to SolarWinds, either because you've got a fresh installation in your environment or because you are in a shiny new job where you're going to be working with SolarWinds tools maybe for the first time.
And now we realize that if you are new to all this, you probably have a lot of questions. And that's why I hope you're watching this live. Because if you are, there's a chat window over there where you can actually talk to us about what's on your mind and get immediate answers. So let's dive in. I'm Destiny Bertucci.
And I'm Adato. Now, believe it or not, one of the first things that folks who are new to SolarWinds get asked, especially if they're coming into an existing environment, is, what version are you on?
Definitely.
And like, I don't know. Do I look in the box? Do I look in the, we don't sell boxes. So I want to talk about a few different ways you can find out the versions that you have, and also talk about which versions are supported. Do you have an old version? That's sort of the, not the first question, it's the first and a half question. What version do you have? And then what version should you be on? So to do that, the easiest way to do it is to go to your SolarWinds environment, and we're looking at it on the screen here, and literally just go to the bottom. There you go. At the very bottom, and I'm gonna bigify this. Down at the bottom, you can see all the software you have installed and all the versions that it's running. You want to talk about Orion? People say, I bought Orion, I have Orion, right? What's that about?
So that's the age-old question, right? And because previously people were like, oh, I own Orion, so that's where I get all my performance health from. Well, not anymore. We actually have a platform that's the Orion platform on which that they have on there. All of your modules sit on top of this. That's what allows you all the great integration, right? Like your alerts, your custom properties, your limitations, the list goes on and on and on. But that is where we actually sit everything on top of it. So yes, you do technically have an Orion, correct?
Right.
But it's what are you using based upon that?
Right. Yeah, so you get Orion with your first install, and then everything else sort of layers on that. Now, there's another way that you can find the versions of software you have, and that's going through your customer portal. Now, we're going to talk about how to get into the customer portal in a little bit. But once you're here, I have to mention that there is a history tab. That history tab tells you who downloaded what version, when. It doesn't necessarily tell you when it was installed, but it does tell you who downloaded it. But then you can go into your licenses, and then scroll down, and this tells you all the products that you have. We actually have all of them. I know that shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. We've got all the licenses here, and then it tells you when something was installed. And it can tell you when it was installed because it knows the license key was activated.
So when you look at the view details, we can actually see the activation. And so what happens there is it gives you a great kind of anomaly of things, right? Is that it tells you if you have the computer name, it tells you when it was actually installed and by who.
Right, and you can go back. Once again, there's a few different moving parts here as far as, how do I know that was the person who downloaded it? How do I know whatever? We're going to talk about that later on in the session. However, if you've gone through an install, you know that it asks you for the email address, it asks you for a phone number, and that's what's showing up here. And that's why. All right, the third piece that I want to talk about is which versions you should have. So we've got a chart up on the screen here where I've listed out each of the modules that we have, or most of the modules we have. There's a lot. And the latest version that's currently, as of the day that we're recording this, the current version, and also the oldest version that's being supported. Now, we have that information out in our Success Center. And that's always kept up to date.
And the importance to the oldest version that's actually supported is key, right? Because that's allowing you to know like how you can better upgrade and which one's going to be able to have the maintenance that's following it and that's going across it. So it's always good. It's just kind of like with other software vendors as well. There's one of which that they support that's the last of it, and then there's things that are going to fall off as end of life, end of service.
So in this page, which you just look up on our Success Center currently supported software versions, you get a list of all the software, and then as you scroll down, you can see each of the modules, and again, the latest version and the oldest supported version. So that's software, the software versions. And again, that's one of the first questions that people get asked. But there's some other places you can get some relevant information, and that's within your SolarWinds portal itself.
Well, this is where I get excited, because this is actually from the products itself. So even if you're looking at downloads and activations, of which that's coming across in your customer portal area, that doesn't necessarily mean that your installation is the one that's completely up to date, right? So we're going to show you some tips and tricks of how you can actually see this within the program of how to verify your installs.
Right. So if you go to All Settings and then scroll all the way to the bottom, there's Database Details. And the database details page looks a little bit like this. And here you're getting, as you might expect, the details about your database, what version it's running, the login name, the username that's connecting to it. That's another piece that doesn't always get documented when you take over something and you're trying to figure out how do I connect to the database, how, especially during upgrades. Also, it tells you what kind of elements and how many things. I know, if I lose you with these technical terms, just let me know, I'll catch you up. How many elements or components you have installed in the system, and that gives you an idea of how well it's performing.
Correct. And then something else that I really like about this is from a security standpoint, it's kind of the age-old question. If somebody leaves, how do we gain access back? Well, you need to know what all this information is. If you're just drop this into your lap, this is a very vital way that you can actually check on your infrastructure and make sure that the health of it is there and know where to look, right? Because sometimes we're pointing to SQL servers and you just may know the name, but you have no idea where it's coming from, how to attach to it, what's the connection levels, what's the timeout, what's the things that are coming across there. So this lets you know the health of the actual heartbeat of what's going on, because your Orion and all of your modules are going to run as fast as your SQL server is going to allow you. So this is where I like to focus in on. I immediately want to know, what am I running on? What is my foundational support for this actual software that I'm implementing?
Right. I want to take a sidestep for just a second.
Not another sidestep.
I know. I just want to point out that what we're showing you here is our online demo, which you can get to just from demo.solarwinds.com, although you can also use oriondemo.solarwinds.com. So this is online and available to anybody all the time. If you've just come into a SolarWinds environment and you're thinking, wow, I wonder if this module would help me, what does it look like? You can always go there and kick the tires. It's got all the latest up-to-date versions of our software all integrated together, so you can see what it all looks like without having to get a sandbox or download a demo or what have you. So I just wanted to take a minute and point that out. And these links are all going to be in the show notes that you can refer to.
And also on the Orion demo, something that I really love about that is that if you're talking and you're having that conversation with management behind doors, there's a great way to display the functionality of which the SolarWinds products have, because it's up to date, as you said, but it's a visualization that you can present and have that talk without already begging for budget or needing something to be in the lab environment or to get things of that nature. It's set up, it's fully functional, it's there for your use, and then they can actually look at it even afterwards, and you can spread it throughout your team. So it's a very valuable resource for you to have those budget conversations.
Right. All right. Going on with more of where you can get information. Back into the All Settings page, still at the bottom, there's also license details. And what the license details page looks like is a little bit like this. And it's really detailed information. If the bottom of the page tells you a little bit about what's installed, this page tells you really detailed what version, the service pack, et cetera, for each of the modules that you have installed. So that's another place you can get some really good information. You don't have to work hard at it to get that. So yet another place you can get information about your environment is still on the All Settings page at the bottom, polling engines. So just click that, and it doesn't work. Because we're running on the online demo, and there's certain places that we do make not available to you. So I just want to let you know you haven't done anything wrong, you haven't broken it, but certain features are closed to people using the online demo. However, I have my own lab environment.
Of course you do.
Of course we do, right? So here's the polling engines page, and I can look at the polling engine and what's installed on it. If you have additional polling engines, you're going to see that information there. There's a few pieces that I just want to point out. For example, the completion rate. is 100%. That's important. I actually think that Kate and I are going to talk more about that in another session. But the idea here is that you can get more information about how many polling engines you have and how they're performing and what's installed on them.
Definitely. And also, I like the way that the polling completion helps you tie things together, because when you're starting to see if you're having database issues, which you can check out me and Tom's session on that, is that you'll see that drop off. And when you start to see that drop off, that's when you need to start really looking in on either adding additional polling engines, or we need to look at your actual database. So you're either going to scale up or you're going to scale out.
Right, and I feel like we've mentioned now additional polling engines, the database server. I think we need to talk about the architecture before we go too much further. So I've got some slides here. So if you have installed the SolarWinds environment for the first time, you probably began with a single server, a proof of concept server. And it was your everything box. It was running the web, it was running the database, it was running the actual polling processes itself. But of course, we would never upgrade your proof of concept server into production. We would never, ever do that, because that would be wrong. In any case, most people's environment looks a little bit like this, where you've separated out the functions into the database and also the server that runs your polling functions and your web server. Many people's installations look like this, where you've got just two servers, and that's fine. We call this the main polling engine or primary polling engine, and of course your database server. But as environments grow, you have additional pieces you can put on, and that's the part that I want to talk about. First of all, one way that people will add additional capacity or scalability is to use an additional web engine that offloads all the web functions. The report display, where people log in, you can put it outside a DMZ if people need to get to it without a VPN, so on and so forth. All of that, you can do that. But then also, if you have so many devices that you're monitoring that there's just too much for one polling engine to handle, at that point, you can add additional polling engines. And that's what I'm showing here, is you can scale up to 100, actually, 100 additional polling engines. Whether you're doing that because you have a remote site that has a slow link and you want store and forward capabilities, whether you've got a DMZ that needs a secure connection and so you don't want to open up too many ports, or because your capacity has just gotten to a point where it expands out. So as you're looking at those informational pages that we were talking about before, you may see some of these elements referenced as well.
Definitely. And they help to scale out, right? And that's kind of our point. And a lot of people use them as load balancing and the brain, right? So the main polling engine, that's how I always describe it. It's the brain. Let it be the brain. So when you start having the web server out there and your database server and you have your additional pollers, its only function is to load balance itself with everyone else. And that makes a really healthy and a great running environment.
Exactly. So having gotten you into the environment, I think the very next thing we need to talk about is how to really join the SolarWinds family.
Oh, definitely.
And the first thing that we want to show you is thwack, right?
Yes, welcome to the family.
Welcome. And yes, you didn't mishear that thwack. THWACK, thwack.com is our user community, about 150,000 users who are all talking about a variety of things. Yes, we talk about the software and I'm having a challenge and can you help me with it, but we also talk about just general technology things. Hey, I'm setting up an ACL rule. I've never done that before. Can you give me some pointers? And people will jump on and do that. Or who's the greatest starship captain ever?
It's a lot of fun, but how do they join it though?
Yeah, well, okay, so it's pretty easy. Go to thwack.com. You'll see a login option in the upper right corner here, and then you just fill out the form like you normally do. You'll use your email address, and you're on.
Right.
So what kinds of things do people find there?
Product forums.
Of course.
That's my favorite place. So when we were talking earlier about the Orion platform and how you had modules and things that sit on top of it, those modules all have a beautiful acronym that we use so lovingly. But they're all different sets, right? So you have your network management, you have systems management, database management, all these different products that we have there. Now, how do I get product-specific questions going on? That's where I can actually go into each one of these and get an elaborate array of different opinions about it, different ways to customize them, different advanced configurations, as well as just where do I start? Like there's a lot of things that we can do within there.
Right, so here we're looking at the whole list of product forums. I'm going to go to, everyone's favorite one, or many people's favorite one, Network Performance Monitor.
And you have to start off with network health. I mean, come on.
Right, because it's never the network. Anyway, there's two places as someone who's new to SolarWinds that I want to make sure you know exist in the product forum. And the first one is the product roadmap, what we're working on next. I'm going to open that one up, and also feature requests. So here we are on the product roadmap, or what we're working on next. And that's exactly what it is. It is the features that we are working on to integrate into the next version of that product. Now, our legal team has been very careful to let you know that this is not a guarantee of what's coming, but it is definitely what we're thinking very hard about. And if you have an environment that might benefit from these features, we definitely want to hear from you as far as what you'd like to see or how you'd like it to work. Right?
And that's where we flow into the feature requests. So when you're looking at this, a lot of this is based upon the conversations that are happening right now, actually, in thwack, right, for each product. So if there's a feature or something that you're like, oh, I just wish it had this, or this is specific to my need and I need to know if this is there. If it's not already customizable and within thwack, you can go definitely to this next page of feature requests to help get your name on that on the board for the product roadmap.
Right. So here, the feature request, you can add one for voting. People will put in what they want to see, and then the whole community votes on it. And really, our engineers do look at this. Obviously, our development ability is not infinite, but with the developers that we've got, we use this to help prioritize what should come next into the product.
It's a focus point, so it helps us to see where the masses are actually leaning to and where they're going. So that helps drive us in our direction to help stay relevant with the customers, and we're not behind, right? Like, we're helping to stay current with you and what your actual needs are.
Right. Now, the other thing you're going to notice about thwack, and it's right at the very beginning, there's all sorts of missions and contests and engagement, and it's more than just a game to get some thwack points and things like that. It really is intended to be sort of edutational.
Is that a word?
Anyway, it's It's entertaining, and it also lets you know more about the product or about the feature or about the area. So that's a way to get it more involved. And sometimes the questions on the contest spark long conversations about, well, wait a minute, I didn't think it could do that, or I tried that and it didn't quite work out for me. What did I miss? So the contests are things that you can use to find out about aspects of our products that you might not have explored yet or realized that it could do.
And also gamification. Come on, who does not like to have a little bit of fun with points, right? Like, there's a little fighting rounds that we go across about the top 10 and where your rank is. So gamification points are always a true hit with Geeks, right?
Right, absolutely. Everyone loves their points, and you can actually use the points to buy stuff in the thwack store. But okay, we're going to leave that aside. You'll find that for yourself. I trust it. The other piece about thwack is actually our MVPs, our most valuable players. So here's a profile for one of our MVPs. You know, because next to their name it actually says MVP. So that's how you can identify them. These are folks you can reach out to who have either long time experience or they've used a product in a very deep and specific way, and so they have a lot to share. And we recognize that sharing, whether they're asking really good questions or answering really good questions or just providing a lot of downloads, reports, and alert profiles, that they're there to help the community grow. They're not part of the SolarWinds staff, they're just part of the overall community.
Correct. No, and it's a really great resource because a lot of those advanced configurations and sometimes those niche little environments, they've been there, they've seen it, they've done it. So it's one of those things where we can actually have the conversation back and forth with.
Right. So that's thwack. There's some other ways that you can join the family, though. Another place you can go, we talked about this before, is your customer portal. Now, we've looked at it and we've talked about where you can find things. The thing I want you to understand, though, is that if you look at the top here, you can see that it's using my name and address, not just the SWID, the SolarWinds ID. A lot of folks who are new to SolarWinds think that all you get is that SWID and a login and that's all. You can actually create additional accounts so that everyone on your team can see the same information and can download if they need to, get patches if they need to, look for the documentation.
Get educational support.
Get educational support, all that. But you need to have your own ID in there. So that's the first piece. The second piece, though, is that you can link your SolarWinds login. If you get away from the SWID, you can link your SolarWinds login to your thwack ID. You go into your thwack profile, there's mine, and you go to Actions, and although mine says unlink, it would say link your customer portal account, and then within thwack, you would get specific information about the products that you own.
Now, why is that important?
Well, if there's updates, if they're doing betas, if they have a question for users, this is how the thwack community knows that you're using a particular product. So that's one of the reasons.
Now, for me, the reason that I like this is because even if I'm on my SolarWinds environment and I'm actually going through things and it's linked, I can see to the side updates, things of which that are happening. What if I'm in the middle of a case or I'm in the middle of something that's going on? I need to know when that's actually going to be alerted or what's happening with it. On thwack, if I'm on thwack and people are asking random questions about something or like the dot versions and things like that, I can look and verify before I answer sometimes, like, oh, am I on the latest and greatest? Do I have the same hotfix? Am I on the same level? It's a quick, easy way that we can check. Plus, it also helps me to know if I'm in a beta, what version of which that I was on there and which one are we going across and how the beta versions and the RCs actually work together.
So there's one more linking thing that I want to show, and that's how you link your actual SolarWinds installation to your customer portal account. So if you go back to your Orion environment, go to Settings, All Settings. Here on the right-hand side, you have Integrate with your customer portal account. Here you put in your login and your password. From this point now, you'll get notifications specifically about the products you have installed. You can open up tickets right from here. You can see the status of tickets, all within your existing SolarWinds environment. And that's the idea, is between thwack and the customer portal account and your actual SolarWinds installation, you want everything operating as one integrated whole where you get all the information you need wherever you are. Now that you've gotten your bearings as far as what software you have and you're part of the family, the next thing is, I need to get some help on something. It's not working. Maybe you've asked on thwack, that didn't quite work. So where else can people go to get some information on how to tweak something, fix it, make it better? What are some options?
I would say we could start with the Customer Success Center.
Customer Success Center, which is support.solarwinds.com, right? We're looking at it here on the screen. So one of the top questions that people get, especially when they've just become in charge of a SolarWinds environment, is which ports. You know this from security side,
Definitely.
right? You know, you're always asking, which ports do I need? I'm not opening up everything. I need to know which ones.
And to be fair, any software of which that you're placing within your environment, you should be always asking that question. But besides that, let's go to the port requirements.
Brief security commercial there. All right, so let's say I'm not sure. Port requirements. You can see that I've typed this a couple of times before. And search, and the very first item, port requirements for all SolarWinds products. And here's a list, and if I scroll down, there is all the ports. The point is not, let me answer right now for you, what port requirements. The point is that when you're looking for something, our Success Center has been optimized for the different types of search phrases, what people are most looking for. So this is the first place that you can look to get some information about your challenge or issue or whatever it is.
Definitely, and especially if you're just starting off, there's a lot of those questions that plenty of people have asked, and we have a great knowledge base full of this within the Customer Success Center. And we want you to be able to use that. Ask the questions as just as you're being asked yourselves to provide. Like, you know, hey, my SQL guy's wanting to know like all the information that's going to be coming across there. Look it up.
Right.
How much is it? Is there trending? Is there things that needs to be there? Is there requirements, things that you don't have to search through an admin guide for? You can actually just get the pertinent information that you need.
Right. So that's the first stop, is RTFM. Look up the documentation. However, let's say that you do need to open a ticket. So here we are back in the customer portal.
Ta-da!
Right, we're back again. It's a good place, especially if you've inherited or you're just getting started. You'll end up.
Some people would say it's a centralized location for all of your knowledge and educational
Some
needs.
people might say that. We say that too. Okay, so I want to open a ticket. Like, let's get down to brass tacks. Go to technical support. Open a support case. We're not going to ask you a ton of questions here. First of all, what type is it? Do you need tech support, customer service? Are you looking for an eval, and so on? Of course, tech support, that's what we're looking for. Pick your product. I'll go with good old NPM just for fun. What version do you have? Again, from the very beginning of the session, what version do I have? Now you know how to find it.
And that's important because there's different parts of which that we put in there. And from a support standpoint, knowing the version that you have can completely change the direction that the case goes from the get-go. So it's great to go back through, like when we were showing you how to pinpoint your versions to get to this level so that you know exactly what you need to put in there so that you're starting out of the gate on a fresh surface of truth.
Right. Yeah, our support folks really do believe you when you fill this out. If you say that you're running npm 12.0, but you're really running 12.1 or whatever, you may end up with somebody who doesn't have the latest information in front of them because they believed what you put in the ticket. So take an extra minute and make sure that you've got the accurate information. Finally, priority, low, medium, high, and my system is down right now. So obviously that's an extra level.
Can I just help out too? Like if the website is just having an issue and you haven't done the configuration wizard for just the website portion, it's not a system down at that point.
Right.
So let's classify what a system down actually is. And that's literally like it's not polling, you're not alerting, you can't get anything to come open, it's down. That is mission critical.
Right. A hard down, not just a, it's not happy down.
It's slow.
Okay, so here I'm going to put, it's not happy right now. Once I put that in, it's going to try to offer me some articles from the Customer Success Center. It's going to pull those based on the keywords and try to offer me some suggestions. I can put in a little bit more information here, add an attachment, whether that's your diagnostics or a screenshot or any of those things, you can attach them right here.
And coming from my side, being an application engineer, something that helps me is if you find an article that matches up to what you're doing and you have completed the steps and you still are not successfully able to resolve your issue, I would recommend sending the link because that tells them what steps you have already provided and what you've done, because that may change the situation on how they're going to do it, because you don't want them to send you the same link right back.
Right.
So go through them, make sure you've done the steps, and let them know what you have or have not done, because that helps them to evaluate the case, get you to the right person, and to quickly be able to resolve that issue.
Right. And the last part, believe it or not, do check to make sure your information is correct here. We have a lot of folks who, when they're setting themselves up on Customer Portal, they put in a fake email or a fake phone number because they don't want people having their private information. We get that, but they're going to try to call you back on this. So please make sure it's the correct phone number. We've had lots of cases that are just stuck in the queue because we can't actually call the person back. So do that, and then you hit submit, and your ticket is submitted. So again, if you need to get help in ticket, open a ticket, this is one of the ways you can do that. Whether you get to this screen from your Orion installation, from the thwack page, because you've linked all that information together. The next thing is our Smart Start program. Now there's a couple of different facets of this. The most common one is for folks who are trying to get their environment installed or upgraded, and they want to get a lot of TLC. They want somebody sort of hanging with them the whole time to make sure it's working. So the Smart Start program is designed specifically for that. They're going to do a pre-install evaluation. They're going to check in with you as you're getting all of your requirements together. They're going to sit with you during the install. They're going to do follow-up calls afterward to make sure everything's working. That's what the Smart Start is all about.
And it's as easy as 1, 2, 3, right? So it's literally step 1, getting started, and that's when they're going to schedule the welcome call and get things going. Step 2 is when they're going to schedule that actual configuration. Step 3 is optimization. So that 1, 2, 3 is the way to really kick off that Smart Start, right? And that's going to help you to have the best possible outcome of your installation. That's what we're offering for there. We're wanting you to have a strong, we're wanting to keep you away from having to create a support ticket. So there's known flaws, known things, and literally 1, 2, 3, you're done.
Right, and believe it or not, we do this for completely selfish reasons, because if we make sure that your installation gets off to the right start, you're having a better time, you're not opening as many support tickets, you're not having issues. That makes our life much easier, especially like Friday afternoons when we can actually go home. So that's good. If you don't need that level of hand-holding, on the same page over on the left, there's a whole variety of articles and videos, if you're sort of a do-it-yourselfer, that you can dig into to do that without all that hand-holding.
Definitely, and that's where you're going to get like kind of the tips and the tricks and the things that can go across there, as well as some video support. You can also get instructor-led training classes as well that help you to kind of get that information of which that you're needing to go for.
Well, that takes me to the next way that you can get some help, and that's our SolarWinds Academy. So SolarWinds Academy has a variety of things. First of all, like you said, it's got live, scheduled, online, instructor-led classes. There's also webinars that are, when you need it on demand. There's a whole variety of written tutorials that are available, by email courses that you can do, and also our certification program is in here too. So the SolarWinds Academy is another way for you to get a leg up on making sure that your skills in your environment are really solid and ready to go.
And also on your time. So that's something that's very valuable and important. We understand you have a job, right? Like, we're not asking you to enlist in college here. But what we are doing is that we have short tidbits of videos of which that can help you directly with what you're needing now, so that you can then get the job done and come back and then learn the full breadth of what's actually going on with the product.
Right. I do need to mention that every year we have a program called Thwack Camp. You might have heard of it. For folks who are joining us live, obviously you're here. For folks who are catching this recording maybe a few months or even a few years later, every year we have a completely free, completely online, 2-day, at least right now, 2-day program where we've got sessions that tell you a whole variety of things, including how to get started with SolarWinds if you're new to it. So Thwack Camp is yet another option. And finally, one of the things, I can't say best kept secret because we don't make a secret of it, but folks take a while to find out about it, is the user experience group themselves, right?
Yes, my favorite. So this is where we can actually, as a new person that's welcoming you into the family, you can help us just as much as we love to help you guys back. So that UX team, what they're going to do is they want to hear, like, you're out of the box. Like, how did that install go? Does this make sense when you click here? Is this actually completing your need? Well, you can click right here on this Be Our Usability Buddy, and when you go into there, it'll help you sign up so that they want to walk with you. So they want to know, what is your first thoughts out of the gate? And if you're new, you are like gold with them, because they want that fresh reaction so that they understand how we can help drive that product to be more successful and more user-friendly.
Right. Real quickly, to get to this page, you go to Resources, and down at the bottom is User Experience, and like Destiny said, Be Your Usability Buddy is how you can sign up for it. But it's a two-way street, right? You help us by giving us a fresh set of eyes, but also you get to tell us, I would want the product to do X. I cannot tell you from the times when I was a customer, the number of times I would say, oh, I would never have it work like that, I would have it work like this. And sure enough, when the product came out, or the feature came out, or the upgrade came out, it did that because we take the feedback very seriously and use it to affect the ultimate form of that feature.
Definitely. All right, we've got one more thing to talk about. Let's dive in.
Okay. So the last thing that I'd like to take a look at are just a grab bag of common tasks that if you're new to SolarWinds, you're probably going to need to do more or less out of the gate. They're not related to each other. Don't look for these to build up. They're just a few, not
just little checkbox, just so that you know where they are.
Exactly. The first one is reset your licenses. I just inherited this environment. I need to reinstall it because it's on really old hardware, but the license keys don't automatically transfer. You've got to do this, deactivate, reactivate. So how can you do that? So the first one is there's an actual utility on your SolarWinds server. If it's still built, that's an if, all right? And it's right here, you're looking at it. So here I want to deactivate my license for Topology Manager, check it off, deactivate, all done. Right?
Yeah, and then the synchronize button, all that does is just make sure that it's talking back and forth to the license server and that everything is synced correctly so you're seeing the right ones. So if you want to deactivate or do anything, you can go that away.
Right, the SolarWinds license server, just to clarify. But that's not the only way you can do it. What if somebody already blew away the server? What if you don't have access to it? How do you proceed from there? To do that, you actually go back to, dun-da-da, your customer portal.
It's so lovely.
So here I'm looking at my license for an additional polling engine. It's already installed. It's activated. This is the license key that it was using, and I need to deactivate it. And right there is deactivate that license manually. There's my instructions about how to do it, and so on and so forth. So that's the way that you would do that. And we get a lot of calls from folks who, I can't get onto the server. That's how you do it. So that's one of those random grab bag things. The next thing are account limitations. If you have reports that only a few people can see, if you have certain screens that should only be visible to certain people, and so on, you want to create a limitation, an account limitation, and we have a builder for that. Once again, that's a utility that runs on the SolarWinds server itself, the account limitation builder, right there. And if I wanted to build one, add, give it a name, I'm going to call it blah, which custom property am I using? You get a variety of either built-in or custom properties that you've created yourself.
So just to clarify real quick, a custom property can be like mute, like you've picked here. And it can also be an area. It could be an address. It could be a building number, a person, a telephone,
Owner
anything
team,
of which that you're wanting to be.
Yeah, owner
Definitely.
team, color, data center floor, manager's dog's name, whatever the custom property is, but you can create a limitation based on that. So here, that's it. Selection method, pattern matching, single selection checkboxes, and so on. We'll keep it at checkboxes and say OK. And now I have a limitation that can be used as I'm creating or applying them to, again, views, reports, and so on.
Alerts, I mean, resources, special ways to actually look at your nodes. They come in very handy, and it's a very vital way to actually look at your information that you have with custom properties and use them.
And the last thing that I want to show is something you spend a lot of time, I feel like you spend a lot of time up front with, but once it's all set, you don't manage a lot, but it's still really important, especially as you're getting started, and that's the actual user accounts.
Which I feel you should look at a lot, but I mean, that's just me.
Right, well, you should look at them to know who's logging in and who's not, but in terms of setting them up, I don't know, depending on your environment, you may have a rush of them, but then a whole stretch where you're not dealing with them so much. So, in your Orion portal, settings, all settings, and then you go to manage accounts. Here, it's my demo environment. I don't have a lot of them. I want to go in and just edit this test Leon account for a minute. Just check it off, say edit. And the thing I want to get into here, there's a lot of different aspects of accounts, especially depending on which modules you have. The more modules you have, the more features or more elements come in on this page. It gets longer and longer.
Right, definitely.
But the ones that really matter to you as you're getting started are right toward the top. The first one is the account enabled or not? It's kind of an important one. Also, does the account expire? If you've got a contractor or someone who's only going to be using SolarWinds for a short period, that's one that you might want to know. Session timeout, by default, that's on. You know that after a certain number of minutes, the account automatically logs out. If you've got an admin user or somebody who's a power user who's constantly in it, you can turn that off.
And just to help out with that, though, a lot of people get confused on this, but if it's yes, that means the disabled timeout is actually not in place, which means it will be continuous. If it's no, that means it is disabled. So that means that the session will actually time out.
Right.
So that always kind of gets some people confused, so we always like to make sure that goes there.
Do you want me to disable this? Yes or no? That's what we're saying. Is this person an administrator, full-on administrator of your whole SolarWinds environment? Obviously, use that one with care. Node management, can you add, remove, or change nodes? Nothing else about the environment. You can't change screens, you can't add resources. Then the next one, map management, specifically for maps. Can you create, can you manage, can you manipulate maps? But the other one that folks often overlook is allow account to customize views. Can you add resources onto the page? Can you move things from one column to another? Those are the ones that typically trip people up. There's a lot of features here, and I would definitely recommend spending some time on it. But those are the ones that most often come up for folks who are new to the environment.
Definitely.
Okay, so if you are new to our products or just to the job of being a monitoring person, hopefully this session has given you a leg up.
And the last piece of advice we want to leave you with is to stay aware of the other things SolarWinds can do. You may have 2 or 3 of our modules and they're doing everything you need right now. But there's going to come a time in a moment when you need something new. Maybe it's IP address management or application trace in the cloud or storage monitoring. While we are all about heterogeneous solutions and picking the right tool for the job, it's also true that when you're installing a new module onto a solid SolarWinds base you have is way easier than standing up a net new solution and then trying to integrate it into what you have.
Right, so as you get up to speed with your shiny new SolarWinds solution, just remember that we've got more goodies for you when the time comes. For thwack Camp 2018, I'm Leon Adato.
And I'm Destiny Bertucci, and thank you for watching.